Good afternoon, hello, and welcome to Switch Focus, your go-to bulletin for all news making headlines globally. We have a lot in line for you. My name is David Kagina, and the sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. Just before I get to my first story, Kenya has just won another gold medal, with Faith Kipyegon having scored a gold in the 1500 meters for the ladies. I repeat, Faith Kipyegon has just won Kenya another gold medal in the 1500 meters for the ladies. Now, former South Africa's President Jacob Zuma has been admitted to hospital outside prison for medical observation. His foundation said it was an annual medical routine checkup and there was no need to be alarmed. As a former head of state, Zuma is being treated at a military facility. The former president has been serving a 15-month prison sentence at a correctional facility in Estcourt, KwaZulu-Natal since July 7th for contempt of court. Prison authorities say he is entitled to seek medical treatment like any other detained person, with the Ministry of Justice and Correctional Services confirming this statement. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has reshuffled his cabinet with notable changes including the Finance and Health Ministries. Former Health Minister Zweli Mkhize resigned hours before Mr. Ramaphosa was set to fire him after he was embroiled in a corruption scandal. He is being replaced by his former Deputy Minister Joe Fowler, as Lillian Minor now reports.
Who asked to be released from his post. Mr. Mboweni, who has been at the helm since 2018, has been instrumental in trying to guide South Africa's economy through the disruption caused by COVID-19 pandemic. The president has decided to do away with the State Security Ministry altogether, just 3 weeks after deadly riots rocked the country, which brought into question South Africa's police and intelligence capability. The functions of that ministry will now fall under the presidency, a move criticized by the main opposition party, who say it gives the president too much power over state security and intelligence. Mr. Ramaphosa also announced he will appoint an expert panel to review the country's preparedness for future security responses. For Switch TV, I'm Lillian Minor.
24 Chadian soldiers have been killed in an attack by militant fighters in the troubled Lake Chad region. Army spokesperson General Azem Bamandoa Gunde confirmed that an attack had taken place at Tochoku Telia, an island 190 kilometers northwest of the capital, Jamena, but declined to give a toll, as Frola Limuki reports.
Troops from 3 army sectors have joined the soldiers who came under attack yesterday. Mahamat Makey, the governor of Lake Province, has told the media. Lake Chad is a vast area of water and marshland bordered by Niger, Nigeria, and Cameroon, as well as Chad. Jihadists from Boko Haram and a rival splinter group, the Islamic State West Africa Province, have been using the region for years as a haven from which to attack troops and civilians. The Chadian authorities tend to call the jihadists Boko Haram, regardless of their affiliation. In March 2020, around 100 Chadian troops were killed in an overnight attack on the Lakes Pohoma, prompting an offensive the following month led by Chad's then-president Idris Deby. After passing the militants deep into Niger and Nigeria, Deby said there was not a single jihadist anywhere on the Chadian side of the lake region. Attacks have continued, however. In July, 11 Cameroonian troops and a civilian were killed in 2 attacks in Cameroon's far north region, the tongue of land that lies between Chad to the east and Nigeria to the west. Deby was killed in April 2021 during fighting against rebels in northern Chad and was succeeded by son Mahamat Idris at the end of a military junta. Boko Haram launched a revolt in northern Nigeria in 2009 before extending its campaign into neighboring countries. According to the UN figures, more than 36,000 people, most of them in Nigeria, have died and 3 million have fled their homes. Flora Limuki, Switch TV.
Egyptians who were set to take the second dose of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine have been surprised with a sudden delay. But thanks to Chinese vaccine availability, the nation's COVID-19 vaccination program is still ongoing, as Shilangetich reports.
The vaccination schedule interruption has highlighted the significance of Chinese vaccines
If it weren't for the million of doses China sent to Egypt, the nation's vaccination campaign could have slowed down even further.
Egypt was supposed to receive millions of vaccines, but because of the huge global demand on vaccines and specifically AstraZeneca, the ministry postponed the second dose schedules due to a shortage in stock. That is temporarily though, because this week we are getting 2 million doses of the jab, which after analysis shall be available in 2 weeks' time.
China and Egypt inked a letter of intent for cooperation on COVID-19 vaccine production in December 2020. Local production of the Sinovac vaccine began in Egypt 6 months later and reached an output of 1 million doses in about 1 month.
We have contracts for millions of doses from Sinovac and Sinopharm, both produced in China. When we start using the local production of Sinovac, we won't import it, yet we will still rely on Sinopharm. When the locally produced Sinovac vaccine becomes available, that will save Egypt from such supply turbulences.
With the first batch of vaccines rolling off the production line, Egypt was the first country on the African continent to cooperate with China on COVID-19 vaccine production. Officials said by mid-August, they expect to see the production of 10 million doses of Sinovac in Egypt, boosting the country's inoculation efforts ahead of the possible fourth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Egypt has so far administered about 5.5 million COVID-19 doses, and almost 1.8 million people have been vaccinated, which is less than 2% of the population. Shilangetich, Switch TV.
Ebrahim Raisi has been sworn in as the new Iranian president, pledging his utmost for domestic economic development amid U.S. sanctions and for peace and friendship with regional states. The conservative judiciary chief succeeds Hassan Rouhani after winning the June elections, which were marked by record abstention. Representatives of 73 countries attended the inauguration, as Apollo James reports.
People want the new government to live up to its promise of spreading justice, fighting corruption and discrimination. Raisi said, adding that what the people demand from the elected government is to protect people in the face of oppression, injustice and discrimination. He said that his government will try to improve the livelihood of the people by removing economic hardship and expanding national vitality and social enthusiasm. The president rejected concerns about the country's nuclear program and dismissed the policy of pressure and sanctions, saying the anti-Iranian pressure will only cause the Iranian people to give up their legal rights.
Iran's nuclear program is completely peaceful. According to the decree by the Iranian supreme leader, Iran forbids nuclear weapons and Iran pursues defense strategy where this weapon has no place. The US sanctions against Iran must be lifted. We support and welcome any diplomatic proposal to achieve this goal.
On foreign policy, he said that Iran will stand by the oppressed, adding that the constructive and extensive interaction with the whole world will be on his agenda. The most important and main priority of this foreign policy is to improve relations with neighboring countries. He said regional crises should be resolved through interregional dialogue, and on the basis of ensuring the rights of nations, and foreign intervention in the region will only further the problems. According to the regulations, the president has 2 weeks after the inauguration ceremony to introduce the cabinet and the ministerial plan to parliament for 1 week evaluation. Raisi was elected new president on June 18th and will formally take office after the supreme leader's decree on Tuesday and the swearing ceremony in parliament. Apollo James, Switch TV.
The Tokyo 2020 Olympics Organizing Committee reported Thursday that 31 more Olympic-related personnel have tested positive for the COVID-19 pandemic, with one Olympic player. The newly infected Olympic player is a Greek synchronized swimmer. So far, 6 people from the Greek Olympic delegation have tested positive. Since July 1st, the number of Olympic-related personnel who have tested positive for nucleic acid testing has reached 358, as Harry Chimere reports.
The coronavirus is currently raging throughout Japan, increasing pressure on pandemic prevention and control in diverse regions across Japan and also the ongoing Tokyo Olympics. In response to the outbreak, The committee and other parties concerned have been continuing virus testing on Olympic-related personnel and have also been tightening pandemic prevention and control measures. At present, nucleic acid testing in the Olympic Village is still carried out every day. All athletes in the Olympic Village have been required to take closed vehicles to move within or out of the Olympic Village, while the performance of pandemic prevention and control measures still rely on delegations' compliance. Japan reported an all-time high record of 14,207 new COVID-19 cases on Wednesday, and according to Japanese experts, the percentage of highly contagious Delta strains in Japan's Kanto region has reached 90%. The COVID-19 pandemic in Japan is no longer limited to the Tokyo area, and the situation in Kansai region and other regions is also serious. Reporting for Switch TV, my name is Harriet Chimea.
COVID-19 infections among children in the United States have been growing. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association on Tuesday issued a report saying that almost 72,000 child COVID-19 cases were added in the U.S. during the week ending July 29th, up to 84% from the week before. As of July 29th, nearly 4.2 million U.S. children have tested positive for COVID-19 since the onset of the pandemic. Some experts attributed the growing infections among children to the arrival of the back-to-school season. Most schools in the U.S. have resumed or will resume face-to-face teaching, but the debate about whether students should be required to wear face masks is still inconclusive. And by that story right there, we're headed for a short commercial break. But before we leave, let me remind those of us who have joined us later that Faith Kipyegon, the 27-year-old lady, has just bagged another gold medal for Kenya, making it the second gold medal in the Olympics with a record time of 3 minutes 53 seconds, 0.11 milliseconds. Thank you, Faith Kipyegon, and congratulations to Team Kenya in the Olympics. We'll be back after this break, so don't go far. Keep it switch, don't switch. Welcome back after the break. This is Switch Focus. My name is David Kagina and the sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. Now, moving on, the COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare the depth of racial discrimination in the U.S. healthcare system. According to a new study published by the peer-reviewed medical journalist Health Affairs, citing mortality rates in the United States from the second quarter of 2019 to the second quarter of 2020 from American census institutions. The research shows that even before the COVID-19 outbreak, death rates among African Americans were much higher than those of whites, a phenomenon unrelated to income or class among poor people. The death rate of African American is about 6 times higher than the whites, while among the middle class, the death rate of African Americans is more than 4 times greater than Caucasians. The paper points to racial segregation and systemic racism as important factors contributing to the disparity. Australians living overseas could be trapped in Australia if they return, after the nation's government tightened its border rules without notice. Since March last year, the country has banned its citizens from leaving the country as part of its COVID strategy. That restrictions has not previously applied to Australians who usually live in other countries, but they will now need to apply for an exemption for outbound travel in line with rules for other Australians. Sazamunga with more.
Australia's tough border rules have been controversial. Critics say that change in effect from 11th August will further punish families and deter citizens from returning. The government said the measure aimed to reduce the risk of COVID cases entering the country as it grapples with its worst outbreak in a year. Australia already has a weekly limit on incoming travelers and bans foreigners from entry unless they have exemption. So far, its policies are among the strictest globally. Last month, it halved the number of permitted arrivals due to the Delta variant outbreak. Many Australians have expressed outrage as the latest move, branded by some as barbaric. Alexander Felon, who lives in the US, tweeted, "Waking up to news that I'm effectively exiled from my country." While the closed border policy has been mostly supported in Australia, many have also criticized its impact on citizens. More than half of Australia's 26 million people are currently in lockdown due to Delta outbreaks in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. More than half of Australia's 26 million people are currently in lockdown due to Delta outbreaks in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Sydney, the worst hit city, has recorded over 4,300 cases in its outbreak. Today, New South Wales State has reported 291 new cases, its highest daily number in the pandemic so far.
Now, many places in China have ramped up epidemic control to curb the spread of the recent resurgence of COVID-19 epidemic. In Yangzhou city of East China's Jiangsu province, all the communities have instituted lockdown management, with each retaining one entry and one exit that are put under 24-hour guard, as Apollo James reports.
All the services sites except agricultural produce markets, supermarkets and pharmacies have been temporarily closed while ensuring the adequate supply of vegetables, rice, flour, edible oils, and meat.
We are doing cyclic disinfection, focusing on public area and building corridors. We have sent special personnel to carry out disinfection in all the lifts.
All the domestic flights, taxi services, and online taxi calling services into and out of Nanjing and Yangzhou have been suspended. To contain the spread of the virus, Zhengzhou city in central China, Henan province, started its second round of mass nucleic acid testing starting on Tuesday afternoon, which is expected to be finished within 2 days. The city has closed all public areas such as scenic spots, libraries, and museums. In the medium-risk area of Quanpi community in Xingme City of East China, Fujian province, more than 1,000 volunteers are serving the area. The community has opened 6 hotlines to provide 24-hour services. In Chengdu City of Southwest China, Sinsha province, the power company has checked relevant facilities to ensure the normal operations of the mass nucleic acid testing sites.
We've mapped out a temporary plan for starting the emergency power generators. Once the power fails, we will ensure that the uninterrupted supply is provided.
Central China's Wuhan city has started citywide nucleic acid testing starting on Tuesday. The Zhangzi city of central China, Hunan province, has put into use 12 mobile cabin labs for nucleic acid testing. The labs have finished testing about 100,000 people. Meanwhile, vaccination drive for people aged 12 to 17 has been carried out in Guangdong, Yunnan, and Heilongjiang provinces to improve immunity. Apollo James, Switch TV.
Now, a female police officer has taken to Rome's world-famous traffic podium in a crucial step towards gender equality in Italy's police force. The 43-year-old says it's an honor and a pleasure to be appointed to the iconic position. Cristina Kuboki is rising to the challenge of taking center stage in Italy's iconic piazza. Traffic officers manning the Piazza Venezia have been made famous by movies such as Woody Allen's To Rome with Love and have always been considered masculine figures. But this 43-year-old political science graduate is changing the script by becoming the first woman in recent history to step onto the conductor's podium. This is the only traffic podium of its kind in Europe, and to be eligible for this prestigious position, officers must pass a 3-month course.
It's a figure that is much loved for both Romans and tourists alike because it's a symbol of the city. So to be chosen for this role is an honor and a pleasure.
We have a lot of women in local police, but here in Piazza Venezia, historically, we were only men.
Dobbiamo fare dei gesti molto lenti. We have to do the gestures very slowly, a bit like an orchestra director, because the drivers have to be able to understand the indications. If we're not clear, we can cause an accident.
I think women can even be the better drivers, so why they cannot be the better instructors? So.
Study a lot, be serious, professional and prepared, and then you will earn the respect of colleagues and the public.
Yes, I prefer to work with Cristina than with Fabio.
So do I.
Such an interesting story right there. Now, the Chinese and Russian military forces are going to have a joint drill in northwest China to deepen the pragmatic cooperation and traditional friendship between the two militaries and further demonstrate the determination and ability of the two sides to fight against terrorist forces and jointly safeguard regional peace and security, as Mariam Jahid narrates.
The joint military drill will be held in the Qintangsha Joint Tactical Training Base in northwestern China's Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region in early to mid-August, and the Russian soldiers arrived in China on July 31st. Named the Zapad Interaction 2021, the drill aims to consolidate and develop a comprehensive strategic partnership of cooperation between China and Russia in the new era, with a total of more than 10,000 soldiers from the two countries being involved. Since the Russian soldiers arrived at the training base, the two sides have been conducting equipment running in and exchanges. Currently, the Russian soldiers are surveying the drill site settings, familiarizing themselves with the drill process and learning equipment operation. After 3 days of running in training, the Russian soldiers have got familiar with Chinese military equipment that are going to be used in the upcoming drill from various sectors, including vehicle driving, live weapon firing, and communication command.
We will jointly undertake the ground armored assault mission together with the Russian soldiers participating in the drill. This requires us not only to be professional in single vehicle operation, but also to cooperate with each other to complete various tactical actions such as rapid approach, short-stop shooting, and tactical concealment.
The Chinese military have also prepared the Russian version of the equipment operation manual, recorded instructional videos, and provided various auxiliary training methods such as driving simulator, shooting simulator, and radio simulator to help Russian soldiers get familiar with the operation and usage of equipment as soon as possible. With anti-terrorist and stability maintenance as the mission background, the Chinese and Russian soldiers will jointly fight against terrorist forces during the upcoming drill. Mariam Jahid, Switch TV.
Heavy rains have continued to pummel Yulin City, South China's Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region, disrupting traffic and leaving dozens of residents stranded in their houses due to flood. Rainfall in the districts of Jiangsu and Yudong and Xingyi County reached more than 100 millimeters, and floodwaters surpassed 1.5 meters at some areas. Firefighters rushed to the rescue with rubber dinghies and rescued a total of more than 20 stranded residents from their flooded houses and transferred them to safe places. In the coming days, heavy rains will fall in some parts of the region, according to the local meteorological department, which calls on local residents to pay more attention to weather forecasts recently and be prepared for possible disasters like flash floods due to the rain. Hungarian farmers are struggling with a growing shortage of enough workers to harvest ripe fruits and vegetables, as young workers appear increasingly reluctant to pursue the career and tend to leave for Western Europe for better paid positions. As the temperature edges towards 40 degrees Celsius, farmers at Ujefeto, a small town in northern Great Plain of region of eastern Hungary, rushed to pick a crop of cherries, trying to beat a storm that could ruin the entire summer harvest, as Robert Uma reports.
According to farm worker Ferenc Budai, who has been doing it for almost 4 decades, taking care of crops is a grueling job, especially in these winter and summer seasons. Trees need pruning in cold winter and ripe fruits have to be harvested in the summer heatwave. As a result, most young Hungarians are no longer willing to toil out in elements. Farmers are struggling with the labor shortage sparked by exodus of hundreds of thousands of workers to the Western Europe during the global financial crisis.
Most of this labour force is still missing from the Hungarian labour market. The second reason is the ageing of society. Young people are less and less attracted by this type of work. Generally, we have to do these jobs with the 50 to 60 age group.
Without enough manpower in cultivation, crop losses alone cost about $190 million a year and are permanently changing across the country following the agriculture sector. To be specific, the area under cultivated crops such as raspberries and blackberries have also been significantly reduced or have virtually disappeared. Facing the serious issue, workers believe that better pay can be a perfect solution in a bid to attract new employees.
There is more workers to do this job if it was paid better. Minimum wage is not really inspiring people.
But some experts see their businesses needing to remodel and also rely on technology instead.
The mechanisation and automation and EU subsidies for tenders are pointing in this direction. There is a trend towards machine technology-based improvements that can be used to replace manual labour.
At present, crops like cherries are best picked by hand to ensure quality, and those traditional skills are likely to be lost when the labours are replaced by machines. Robert Omar, Switch TV News.
Thank you, Robert. And that story right there brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you to everyone who made it a success, from my producer Lillian Miner to the sign language interpreter Teresia Washira and my director right there. I have been David Kagina. Enjoy your evening.